Hello and welcome to Cut It Games. This is probably like the third video that'll go on the channel.
Third video.
So
Ooh.
I apologize if we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah, if we're just trying to figure this out, yeah.
So what is this game called?
I think it's Star Wars Rogue Leader. It's
Okay,
the
Rogue
second
Leader.
Rogue Squadron game. I don't know. I'm trying to just follow the radar. Tells you where all the bad people are. Wait, hold on.
The very vague radar.
If I can just there we go. Kill the chicken people. Oh shit!
That's a very flat dashboard you got there.
Yeah. Oh jeez. Oh
All right.
God. Oh god.
So we thought, because this is a one-player game, I would go through my notes.
I just died. Oh, we're already off to a good start, guys.
Yes. One of the many deaths that'll be on the channel.
Oh, jeez.
That's just how video games work.
Yep.
I figured I'd go through my very extensive and in-depth review / critique of Batman the V Superman.
Keep in mind, mine will not be as in-depth because his pessimism just got me more excited for the movie. I almost wanted to buy stuff, but I am very glad that I did not.
I would also like to put up front that I wanted to like this movie. I wanted to enjoy it, and I thought, okay, the best way to be fair to this movie, because I don't like Zach Snyder very much, the best way to enjoy this movie would be to write down a bunch of categories before I even go see the movie, and then rate them 1 to 10.
Oh, God.
Add it all up, and divide by the whole number
the record,
to get a good percentage.
You've had this plan for, like, months on end.
Yes. Well, these characters mean a lot to me, so...
I know.
That's... All right. So,
it's a little concerning.
Okay. So, we'll just start with the notes,
Okay.
and then we'll go into the grading system.
Sure.
So
the grading system that... oh, God.
Also, if you've watched a podcast from us, if you've watched almost anything from us, you know that there's a bet going on here, and that this is going to
known to other people.
Yes.
Too? Oh God.
There's going to be a result of the bet, and we'll talk about that later.
Oh God.
All right.
I don't even know about this. I mean, we've changed the rules
So
constantly,
many times.
so I don't know what.
There's no money changing hands.
Okay.
But I will explain
that
what's going to happen.
we changed because we're college students and we don't have a lot of money. So.
And gambling is wrong? ?
Oh, look at that! You're being a good Christian because it's like close to April. Get it?
Brunch.
Great joke. Great joke.
Okay, so right off the top, I wrote a question. Why is the beginning of this movie a trailer for another movie? So we have Batman's origin. Fine. I'm glad that we sped through it. I understand that we had to see it for hint, hint, Martha. We'll get to that later.
We'll get to that.
But why do we keep fading to black? Is this an 80s music video? Are we going to get, Bruce Wayne gyrating over his parents' bodies? Like, why do we go, oh, slow motion, gratuitous slow motion, fade to black. Gratuitous kid crying, fade to black. It's very melodramatic.
Yeah.
Which is not operatic.
Oh, yeah.
This is his attempt at operatic.
Yeah, definitely one of the biggest issues is that the movie does take itself very seriously to a point where I tried watching it a second time and I left the theater after the first hour because I was bored. I was really, really friggin' bored.
Yeah.
And I there's a lot of other critics that have been talking about this, and they're, a lot of what Zack Snyder is good at. Everyone knows he's good at visual directing, and just trying to really try to replicate the images you see in a comic book panel, and how it doesn't really work for reality. But I can suspend my disbelief to a certain extent. I guess my bigger sort of problem is that, like, Zack Snyder's just acting like an angry 5-year-old when it comes to like the reception.
Responses,
yeah, to Man of Steel, because he pointed out, oh well, like The Force Awakens, look at the destruction there, and I'm like, okay, hold up. There's a huge difference.
It's war.
Well, yeah, well, not only is it Star Wars, but like, okay, who could have stopped this? Like, no, like hero in that entire like glossary of of heroes could have possibly stopped a planet destroying 500 planets.
No one can fly at like the speed of sound to stop things.
In that universe, anyway. And comparing it to like Man of Steel makes no sense because like Superman is like pretty much fairly responsible for
everything.
Yeah, and that's your main character, whereas like none of the main characters in the Star Wars movie could have done anything about that.
Yeah.
At least not until like later in the movie, but you know what I mean.
And the slow motion in this movie, I feel like people shouldn't have, not because it was bad, but people shouldn't have patted him on the back for the slow motion in Watchmen, because he decided, oh, I'll put slow motion in every single one of my movies. 300, Sucker Punch, all of these movies have gratuitous slow motion that make no sense in the context of the film.
So I have not seen those other movies, so that's why I'm trying to. I'm literally clawing for some positivity here from like an outsider's perspective. Keep in mind,
but I thought the opening, like given the circumstances of Man of Steel, the opening with Affleck was pretty good. Yeah. Like,
I was not a fan of the friggin', you know, there are some things out there, diamond absolutes. It just, I was waiting for like Brad Pitt to come on and be like, you know, men are motivated by power, and then it just cuts to like a friggin' what was it, the clone?
Chanel or something?
Yeah, I was, it felt very strange, and also when Bruce Wayne was like, with the bats were like bringing him up out of
raising him up like Jesus.
I got that was a dream, but it just, there's some things that I could believe in a comic book and some stuff in a movie, like it doesn't translate.
What I don't get, well, we don't get context for the fact that Batman is having all these acid trips. Like we're not entirely sure if they're dreams or he's just the worst drug addict.
Yeah.
Like, is that a nod towards Grant Morrison, who did all the drugs? We don't know.
Well, the thing is, like, okay, well, this movie clearly tried to explore Batman's instability as a human being a lot more than the other movies did, which is fine. And I understand at least this first dream sequence because it serves a purpose to the rest of the story. But the other one that I didn't get was when he goes to the grave and there's, like, blood coming out of the grave or something, and then, like, the friggin'
giant bat,
the man bat shows up, and, like, I'm sure there's some explanation for that in like the extended version when it comes out, but like it doesn't add to it. Oh, I failed again. It just doesn't add anything. And you know, the common criticism that people say like, oh, you could have taken things away and added stuff in different places. I agree with that.
Yeah.
So
I did appreciate, while it was a little weird seeing Batman, or Bruce Wayne rather, wear purple. I did appreciate what they were trying to do with having him run through the city. It was a little weird that he was driving a Jeep.
Wasn't that like a commercial or something?
Yeah, totally. There's so many product placements in this movie, especially Jolly Ranchers, which is my favorite one.
I gotta say, out of all, like, you know, Lex Luthor's character was not one for subtlety, and that product placement I think matched
his amount of subtlety.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, what's the product placement? Like, what's worse, Man of Steel or this movie? Like, which one is more like putting the Jolly Ranchers one aside?
I feel like this movie is worse. Most people wouldn't agree with me, but I think this movie is worse with product placement because it's. With Man of Steel, you got the feeling that, like, it's supposed to be a real world. And so when he, you know, fucking gets thrown through a Sears or an IHOP, you're like, okay, well, in my local farm town or small town, we have
these things.
These chains. Yeah, like, or you see, like, a truck get destroyed. Like, it's never a guy sticking candy in another guy's mouth. And, like, we spend 5 minutes on that alone,
God.
which makes no sense.
See, what's really funny is that, because I got that small Jolly Rancher thing spoiled for me watching a review, which, I mean, that's not, like, a major spoiler or anything, but, like, I forget who I was watching, but they said, oh, well, he puts a Jolly Rancher in a guy's mouth, and I'm like, oh, that's probably, like, a really quick... subtle moment, but instead it just slowly like
really
pans down
sexual.
to like a jar, not a jar, like
Yeah.
a freaking bowl of Jolly Ranchers, and then he's just like very slowly putting it in the guy's mouth, and the guy just like slowly accepts it, and he's just like, it's cherry, and then it just cuts to the next scene.
It also doesn't make sense within the context of the movie. Like,
Yeah.
Lex Luthor, very rich, right?
Yeah,
Why would his secretary have Jolly Ranchers on the desk? Like, wouldn't you have, like, I don't know, Ghirardelli or some of these, like, chocolate brands that are really expensive. Like, I've gone to fancy hotels before, never seen Jolly Ranchers.
Right.
You know, like, it just doesn't fit. Like, Jolly Ranchers is probably the cheapest, like, weirdest candy for
Right.
Lex Luthor to be...
Maybe there's gonna be like a solo movie explaining his motivation for that too.
Yeah.
It'll be a two-parter.
Yeah, I don't get why this movie decides, like, the music is one thing, which we'll get to, but why the sound effect, there's trailer sound effects in this movie.
No idea.
Dun, 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 dun. Or, like,
it's very
and
Hans
it's just,
Zimmer.
like, it's, like, weird, and it really stands out in this movie, I don't know why. Like, in Inception, that was, like, the whole point, was, like, they were these were transition noises. I didn't really like Inception, to be honest. But there were transition noises from scene to scene.
It's a review for another day.
But I also thought the kryptonite scene was dumb. Like, just them, like... It was really quick. There was no finesse to it.
Yeah.
They, like, dive down, they just pull out kryptonite, done. Like, it was almost like this was the first little tidbit, except for the whole, like... Batman running through the city.
I can't even tell if I'm like doing well or not, by the way. The game is playing itself at this point. It's not even just because it's a cutscene. Anyway, continue.
It seems like this was another thing that, like, Zack Snyder was like, oh, well, we're gonna have kryptonite in this movie because, I don't know, people said kryptonite air wasn't good enough in the last movie, and we're not gonna stick to our guns on this one.
Yeah, they clearly have so much confidence in their universe right here. I will... Okay. I guess the biggest issue that I have with... Well, I mean, putting the trailer stuff aside, because that kind of... I'll go into that once we talk about the other heroes, the cameos in this movie. But I guess my issue with all of that, it kind of comes down to, like... Kryptonite's just such an easy thing to do. It's a little too easy, and, you know, what your ideas that you told me about, like, months before... would have been a lot interesting if the whole red sun energy thing.
Yeah.
Like, I know that would have probably taken maybe a little more world
Explaining,
building. Yeah, it just would have been more interesting, and I do applaud them at the very least for, you know, that very first shot where you hear, like, you see the sound things. That's, like, the first thing, and, like, Superman freaks out. But that was clearly, like, I really didn't think that was, like... an artistic choice because Zack Snyder, like, was, like, into the comic books. I think that was just because, like, that was the first panel we saw in, like, the friggin' Dark Knight Returns fight, and that means I'm being faithful to the series and whatever, and it just,
This is what, so that moment, the kryptonite moment, starts a list for me of, like
what a fucking
very
surprise.
corny and unneeded moments.
Yeah.
Like, the terrorist scene. What? Like, I get that it's later on for the trial, which also doesn't fit in this movie. Like, but it just doesn't. It's so unneeded, and like we get the killing of Jimmy Olsen. Spoilers. We get
very
like,
early on.
We just get it's so out of nowhere. Like we don't even know that she went to Afghanistan. We don't know where she is. Where she was.
Also, like,
it's just so.
Well, what I also don't get is that, like, you don't just, I mean, like, no shit, but you don't go up to a random terrorist and be like, "Are you a terrorist?"
Yeah.
You don't go up to, you know, like, a fucking news reporter isn't gonna be like, "Oh yeah, don't report on this vigilante guy. I want you talking about sports," even though you're not a sports writer, and it just. I feel like there needs to be a word for, like, a real life consultant.
Yeah.
Like a person that, like, or like a fact checker or something.
Or just a dude who sits there. Like, video games have testers, right? They test the video game on people. They have test audiences. Why nobody says half of this shit? I don't know. Either they don't listen to them, or they didn't test this movie whatsoever.
I guess they didn't. I mean, are you a terrorist?
Yeah.
And then just immediately everyone just gets like fucking captured. It's like, have all my questions answered.
Yeah. And so and then we get the superhero landing, right? And so which is really awkward with Deadpool only like 2 months before this movie.
Yeah.
Where like he's just making fun of it and then it happens.
Yeah.
And then we get the corniest noise that could have ever gone with a superhero landing.
Nice little crunch.
No, it's like dun dun, like it's like straight out of like Terminator or like an action movie that this movie wasn't claiming to be.
Right. Or like whenever the characters would come on screen, you'd always hear like their theme or something. Which is fine, but like it would help if the music was good.
Yeah.
Like friggin' Batman's theme is just like da 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 da. Duh. It's just one note. I feel like Hans Zimmer just got so bored. He's like, fuck it. I'm just going to keep playing this one note, and this shit will turn to gold.
See, I mean, this is just how I imagined that happened. I think he went to the recording studio late at night. He's tired, you know, didn't have coffee. He forgot to stop at Starbucks or something. He's pissed. And he's just sitting there, and he's like fucking looking at the keyboard, and it's just like, I don't know what to do. Nobody's around because it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, and he's just like, oh,
firing up the butthole. Right,
fuck it. Zips his pants down, takes his dick out, and just whacks it on the piano. And he's like, "This is Batman's theme."
Well, I was gonna say that's like
just duh.
I was gonna say that's his calling card for his like retirement or whatever.
Yeah,
he like videotaped it and was like, "I'm retiring. You see you later, fuckers. You don't like my music."
It's like the Joker's like camcorder thing from The Dark Knight, a much better movie, where he's like, "Hey Zach, this one's for you." He sets it down on the where the music goes and just flop. Flop, 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 flop.
Oh my god. You can tell he really doesn't like this movie, guys.
Yeah, no, definitely not. I got really irritated with the jumps in time as well. Well first, the thing is, Superman kills a guy in the terrace scene.
And there you have the nice little crunching noise.
Yeah. You get... I think every bone in his body was disintegrated.
Yeah.
What the crunch noise indicated for me.
Also, I just love it how, like, in the bathtub scene where he's just like, oh, I didn't kill anybody. I didn't kill anybody at all. And what it should have done is cut back to the crunching sound.
No, it should have cut back to the pool of goop that man became.
It's like Hellboy 2, The Golden Army, where, like, everyone's just like a puddle of flesh.
It's also like, I don't think they get his power set at all. I think it's the same reason why Warner Brothers, not Warner Brothers, but like WB Games won't create a Superman game.
A good Superman game.
Yeah.
Well, let's add that word in there. Because
like he could have easily done 700 things that could have been different. He could have frozen his hand. We haven't seen him use that power. He could have used his heat vision. He could have sped up and caught the bullet. He could have crushed the muzzle of the gun, which we've seen him do many times.
Right.
Like, I get that you want this Superman to live in the real world, and so he's more like a soldier, and you want him to kill people. But a soldier doesn't kill people when it's not necessary. That's the point of being a soldier. Like, yeah, you're protecting American lives, but you're not supposed to take lives when you don't have to.
Can we fact-check the army here? Do you kill people because you feel like it, or only when it's necessary?
Hey, General Tarkin here. I'd like to talk to you. I'd like to ask. Now, if a soldier was
is that your Peter Cullen?
yeah. This is my reporter voice. Now, General. See. If a soldier's in a situation, right, where she's a man, and
where she's a man,
and he doesn't have to kill the man. There's no point to kill the man. He can perfectly peacefully take the man down without shooting his brains out. Does that man take that opportunity? Is a soldier supposed to respect that life?
Sure, why not? If it looks cool on screen, do whatever you want. That's pretty much Zack Snyder's mentality on it. Like from what I've noticed so far with the films I've seen, if it looks cool, then anything goes at that point.
Yeah. Okay. Here's a good thing. A little piece of hope within the shit. A
diamond in the rough, if you will.
I wrote down. I really liked the shot of Clark Kent's glasses on the ground, where he fucking ruins his entire outfit by getting in the tub with Lois. But
They
water
fuck
spills
like
down
rabbits.
through his clothes. He just uses his super speed and super
superpowers.
strength
It's
to
one of the
just
superpowers,
rip
man.
his crotch region open. And
at least they got like, well, I guess the problem with Superman also, I mean, problem is the wrong word, but, you know, he's got a lot of friggin' powers.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a very easy way to make it seem really campy. And the problem is they're trying to make it realistic, so I guess that from that they're trying to take away some powers and try to make it seem like he's a little more limited. Mm-hmm. You know, at least they got, I do like the fact they at least got the super hearing, right? Where, like, he knew Lois was in trouble, he could just immediately help.
Save her, yeah.
That I did at least like. I was like, okay, at least they cared somewhat, but obviously somewhat is not enough.
Yeah, and like, you know, there's interesting things with the super hearing, right? Or the X-ray vision. Is that like it's like our hearing. It's like our sight. They do this in the comics, but I will respect that they did it here, where he doesn't know that there's a bomb there.
Yeah.
He doesn't know to look. It's not his job to go into every room and X-ray everyone.
Right.
Like, that's not what you do. You don't immediately, like, he's not a ex-Marine or something who would go into a room and, like, surveil everyone. Okay, who's the most likely person to hurt somebody? Like, it doesn't... So, like, that I appreciated. But I did write down that I liked the shot of the glasses with water coming down. Very pretty. That's what Zach Snyder does best.
And it also could have like a sort of a double meaning too, I guess. You know, like he's kind of willing to make it work and sort of be Superman. I guess you could sort of represent that by the falling of the glasses. I mean, it's not like a dramatic thing, but
it's
nice.
It's nice to look at. It might hint to the fact that I guess there's no more Clark Kent at the end of this movie. Spoilers.
Clark Kent is dead. Bury it.
I wrote after that, though, like after that scene, I was like, this movie, I can tell, is just not... It's not going to have substance.
It's so weird because when I first watched it, I liked the first, like, 45 minutes to the hour. And then towards the end... I was just mad. I was just
madman.
I was just I was madman. I was just like pissed off at the certain decisions they made, but you know we'll
get to it. But like, and here's the first time I curse in these notes. God, fucking I'm stop trying to be epic. Like if you are epic, if you have an epic moment, like even Ant-Man, who not everybody loved that movie. Had some epic shots with him going small, doing that kind of combat, and it wasn't. The music didn't tell you, "Oh, you're supposed to think this is epic." Dun dun dun. This is another moment after the Lois Clark bath scene, where we move to the next scene, where it tries desperately to just get you to be like, "Okay, come on, get on board. We're doing this right?" So. And then I sort of asked a question to myself, and we can talk about this more in depth.
No idea what I'm
which is
right now in this game.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the screen like once because I'm too angry.
I just something to do with the cables. I don't know how I don't know. We'll keep talking about the movie. I'll just be on this one level for like 3 hours. It's fine.
The Batwing shows up, kills everybody.
Yeah.
But so I asked myself this question, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. I keep going back and forth on it. The Batcave. Is it too real? It's just a bunker with a bunch of screens.
I mean,
like
if they're going for a realistic universe, it's that's better than having like a giant penny or a dinosaur in there,
It's definitely not like it. It's supposed to feel like in the comics and stuff. It's supposed to feel like it's under, Wayne Manor, which. Right. He technically doesn't live in this movie?
Yeah, well, the Wayne Manor was like where all the people are buried now.
Yeah.
It was like abandoned.
Which was a weird choice.
Yeah.
Like, that's an awesome set piece to have. Why would you turn that into a mausoleum? But, so I kind of go back and forth. Like, if you're going for this tone of realism, why would somebody have, like, the Nolan-esque, like, computers in a cave, essentially? Yeah. But, like...
Well, Christopher Nolan was the producer, so...
If you're going with Zack Snyder, who likes making things look beautiful and pretty, why pick a room with just monitors? Like, that's so not interesting. You know, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. So that, I go back and forth on that. Like, I don't think it's that compelling.
Yeah,
But I do get what they were going for. I would have preferred a giant penny, the dinosaur. You know, but that's just me.
Yeah, well, that's why I think the Lego Batman movie's gonna be better, to be honest, because at least it knows what it wants to be. Whereas this movie is, you know, when I watched it the second time, I understood why certain like small scenes were where they were, like logically. But you could, as you know, in that second viewing, I could just feel like all the business execs like rearing their ugly heads, just like, okay, this scene needs to be here because character motivation, because this thing here and that. Like it felt like this giant puzzle that was like just barely like holding itself together. That's like how it felt for me.
Yeah, so. It's like they used a non-adhesive to keep the puzzle together and then threw it at a table expecting to stick. Anyway, the first Batman scene, or the bat scene, was spooky. Where like it's just these cops.
Oh, it's
and,
like they saved us.
Yeah, he's like
he's here.
He's like I don't know exactly what to call her. The young Asian woman who says
trying to be
the devil's here. That was interesting. The way he takes down the people is interesting. Again, that doesn't save this movie. I think it's also really trying to be real, and also we get this sense of like, why put this scene in this movie? Daredevil season 1 just did human trafficking. Why do this in this movie when it looks like you're copying them? Like, do something else.
Oh man.
Writing. This is one of your big things.
No, what is?
Oh god, the writing is so preachy. That's how it starts.
The thing is, there's a lot of stuff in this movie. I can't believe I'm making this comparison. Green Lantern, the movie, the trailer has some decent stuff.
It's a good trailer
that works as a trailer, but when you see the movie, it was clearly made like for the trailer. And you know, that's how it starts, the fever, the rage, whatever. That clearly worked for the trailer, but it did not work in the scene itself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, literally, like a lot of people have been saying this, and I guess I sort of try to apply it the same ways. This movie is like on par with like the Transformers movies, and if you like try to see them in that light, then you can find some enjoyment in them. Which I agree with, but
to an extent.
But also, I mean, like Transformers and DC characters, those are very, you know, one franchise is clearly more recognized and beloved than the other one.
Yeah.
And
yeah, that's this movie summed up in a noise.
It's just, like I said, it's the second half of it where I just sort of wonder why certain things are. And, you know, a lot of people make, like, big complaints about it. Like, oh, the fucking kryptonite spear goes in the water, and then she has to go get it even though she put it in the water in the first place.
It's just in such an unnecessary scene.
Or, you know, fucking Martha, why'd you say that name? Why'd you say... Like, it just...
It's... that scene. We'll get there.
I've talked... Well, let me just say this. I've talked to, like, a lot of other people about it, and this movie shares the flaw with Man of Steel where, like, the ideas are really good, but the execution of them is just so bad
horrible
that there's no real like defending it other than just the base idea itself, because that could have worked in some other context. But he seems like a little kid. He's like, why would you say that name? Why?
Yeah,
like, it's just
like he doesn't get the concept that there is another human being with the same name.
Yeah, I saw like a Civil War meme that pretty much said the same thing. It was like, this is the end for you, Cap. And Cap's just like Martha, and then you see Tony start crying.
So here we go. Here it goes. Jesse. Now, I appreciate all the acting exercises he did. I appreciate all the effort he put in. I appreciate that he went balls to the walls and was a great Max Landis. But he was not Lex Luthor in this movie. Granted, he was Lex Luthor Jr. or whatever.
They were trying to make it very clear through. I was like, oh yeah, my father did this. I was like, okay,
just in case.
Yeah, just in case, like, people are gonna get pissed off. Like, there's like friggin' pitchforks and torches and shit, and there's like a huge pile of people outside the WB office. And they're like, wait, it's his son. Hold on, just check back on this clip from the last part of the movie. At first, I actually didn't mind him.
Yeah.
If I acknowledge the fact that, like, okay,
he's different.
This is a different Lex Luthor. This is a different.
Because I wrote down here, like, the science and the amount of time that they spend on kryptonite and how it works. I was surprised.
Yeah.
I was surprised that they decided to take that time.
Yeah.
And like they threw in a lot of science gobbledygook of saying like, oh, it generates these aliens' DNA. Like,
but what was really good about that too was that it set up his motivation at least a little bit more, and at least his motivation then made sense because it was like, oh, it's like a contingency plan. Like, oh, that way we're not like we don't have to be dependent on these superpowered humans. But then it just gets to a point where he just goes fucking insane, and I don't. You know.
But my thing also, like, what I don't get about this characterization of Lex Luthor is why they listen to him. Like, why does a senator and these people with a lot of money listen to what comes across as like a whiny teenager? Yeah. Like someone our age, like, and people our age have.
He looks young. He looks younger compared to everybody else.
Like people our age are having trouble getting jobs, let alone talking to a senator and convincing them that they need this contingency plan that they haven't even considered. Mm-hmm. I thought that within the context of Man of Steel, within the context of this movie, the graffiti guy, the original scene with this, where the cops are like saying, "No, get down." Oh, yeah. I liked it. Like, I thought it was really compelling to see how much someone hates this guy, to literally do a giant pull-up on his arm because he can't use his legs. And shimmy over, and to spray the you're not a god, false god,
something like that. Even though
false penis, whatever.
Well, realistically, they would say false penis or draw a penis on there, and not like false god. Just
so people don't speak that way.
Yeah, it just sounds like it came out of like a Nolan movie, or just like a not good Nolan movie, or
but like. I could see it being in a comic book movie, but again, this movie tries not to be that. So when you get false god within this movie, it's like, okay, but that's not what somebody would really say. Mm-hmm. You've set the tone of like, oh, we want to be real, aka Superman punching a guy into a million pieces of poop. But this guy, he would write, fuck you or something like. Draw a giant middle finger over the S. Like, that's what the kind of graffiti that we have in the real world. But if you go for the comic book movie, I would have accepted the false god a little bit more. Yeah. But I did like the sort of imagery, again, Zach Snyder, of a guy pulling himself out of a wheelchair.
What I didn't like was the Luthor turns around. What are you here for? I want you to stand for something. Yeah. You made me half a man.
Yeah. So many, like... Oh god. I immediately after that though I was like, they had again another trailer in this movie, which was like jumping in time between like Lex getting the body and stuff, and the music was so heavy-handed. It was like, this is the villain, this is the villain, and, it's like... and then you have Tess Mercer walking, and it's like, look at the skinny bitch. Look at this skinny bitch. Yeah. Like, here's Zod's face. Yeah. And it's just like, I don't know. I honestly don't know.
I don't know. Well, that's my reaction. You had a fucking year and a half to edit this thing. You had a very long time to try to make this good.
And there's a lot of trailers in this movie.
There's a lot of, but there's also a lot of writing on this movie too. And you can't, like, I kept saying this to you as like a justification how it can't suck. It can't suck. There's too much like writing on it.
So then in chronologically, this is where the Jolly Rancher scene comes in. And I wrote down the flavor. It was cherry.
Well, he also said it too.
Yeah, and I was also like, the fuck? I wrote after that. So we've already talked about the scene. Yes. But I wrote down that I liked Perry White. Even though he's not the same Perry White that we saw in Man of Steel, clearly.
He's just like, headlines.
Yeah.
Do this big headline thing. No one cares about Clark Kent taking on the Batman. Like
he did get into a little bit of John Diggle territory.
Yeah. That's not my impression of Perry White, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm not racist. I'm not racist.
Where he was very breathy while he was talking.
Yeah.
But I thought he was okay. I mean, I prefer
God, I can't fucking kill these things.
the old school Perry White who just fucking is miserable. Like, he's essentially... what's a good example? Like, that teacher who just hates everybody, except for Lois Lane. Like, Lois is the only person that can kind of get on his good side. And so he just yells. He just yells all the time. So that's my preferred Perry White. But I did like...
For a news reporter, she's got a lot of access to stuff. Like, oh yeah, can I use a helicopter for, like, my own personal interests?
A print newspaper company has access to a helicopter. We'll get to that one.
Oh god, this game is just boring me to tears right now. I have no idea what the fuck
I laughed. I audibly laughed when Jesse Eisenberg was drinking scotch. It looked so unnatural. It looked like he had never had alcohol in his life. Like, I haven't, and I could tell that it was just, he was like pretending to be drunk, and he was just not doing a good job of it.
Yeah, it's just bad acting, man.
I wrote down, this is kind of the case for a lot of this. Amy Adams, good acting, shitty Lois.
Well, also
it's not her fault.
Yeah.
But she's not Lois Lane.
Well, the problem is that, you know, they were trying very hard to make her relevant throughout the whole story, and that clearly just fell flat on its face.
They reduce her, too, to, like, be very lovey-dovey.
Well, also...
I'm not even saying, like, oh, I have to be
saved. Like, all the female... Other than Wonder Woman, all the female characters are damsels in distress.
Saved, yeah.
Like, we live in the year 2016... And I think we're getting a little sick of this by now, in case most people can tell.
What I find a little bit ridiculous about this all is, like, people keep saying, oh, like, Lois saves Clark in that one scene with Batman. I'm like, she fucking begs Batman. She doesn't save him. Like,
and she, like, Batman could have just been like, nah, I'm just gonna kill both of you. And just, like, kick the shit out of them.
Because clearly, as we find out in this movie, he does not have a problem just murdering people.
The thing is, like, I don't really mind that as much. It's just that there are versions of him that do that. Yeah. And I think realistically, a sort of aged Batman would sort of be like, you know, fuck this. You know, if someone really, like, valuable to, you know, that mattered to him died, I feel like... Oh, I just died again, speaking of.
Murder.
I can see it sort of making sense why he would go that far, but he's just not a very smart guy in the movie.
We'll get to why. I mean, like, I'm both...
jumping ahead, but...
I have both... reasons within this movie, and then just sort of the inner, like, that's not who Batman is. Why I don't like that sort of killing.
If anything,
we'll talk about.
If anything, I feel like the one that they got the most wrong was Superman. If anything, you know, everyone says Ben Affleck is Batman. You know, he's great, and even though he murders, his characterization is still good. It's like it's still kind of stretching it for Batman, but at least you can see like the main essence is there. But with Superman, there's clearly they just did not know how to write Superman especially for this movie.
They will never get, I don't think, the whole rubber bat mask right. I don't think. Like, it just looks so wrong. Like, I didn't like the Nolan one. I when I was a kid, I was okay with the Keaton one, but like, later on, I was like, wow, that is literally just rubber. It doesn't look like anything else. This one is the same thing. Like, it looks terrible. Like, I kind of wish they would make... Because they didn't even do that with, like, the Batman, his, like, armor Batman. They, like... It's supposed to be made out of metal, but it's clearly not actual metal.
Yeah. It's stylized. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely aesthetic over function, but...
I kind of wish they would go for, like, an Arkham City, like, this is, like, a metal faceplate kind of thing. But
I feel like there's just... Look, I mean, Dark Knight Returns obviously has its redeemable things, but I think we're past that now. Where like so many Batman movies are inspired by that in some way or another. It's like, please pick another movie. Please pick another design. Yeah. Is this game entertaining?
Yes, totally.
I've like died so many times. I just want to. Can't take it anymore. Just kill myself.
So you're the dick and they're your balls. Is that what we're going with? Like,
why not?
Because I mean, everything comes in 3, right? Including Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman.
Including their like giant fucking ball sack things, like the crotches.
Oh God,
yeah.
And I mean, I get why. Oh, in the real world, you wouldn't have the trunks.
Yeah.
But God, why do they clearly like pad these guys' pantses for what reason? I don't know.
Because masculinity is fun looking because he's Zack Snyder.
Yeah, I don't know. He clearly has a thing with crotches, though. I thought Jeremy Irons was good. He was good. He was underused. He was good, though.
Yeah. I mean, he was fine.
Yeah, he was fine. Exactly. I mean, like, he's in a bad movie, but. Otherwise,
he's got plenty of other good movies.
I thought Superman hearing Alfred through Batman's earpiece, great.
Yeah, that was good.
I thought that was awesome. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a good way to sort of add tension to the scene. Lex's speech. God, that was dumb.
I was like, what was up with that?
What am I? He stuttered so much. If this is the real world again, Lex Luthor would have given a speech before this. And they would have seen how terrible he is at giving speeches. Mm-hmm. And his publicist would have been said, no, you're going to pretend to be a recluse. And we're going to have Fred over here, who took a public speaking course, speak for you. Because you are a bumbling idiot. There is no, like, Lex Luthor has a stutter in this movie. There's no, like, reason why. He just has no ability to speak during the scene. There's no, like, really, something to pass it off on.
Yeah.
There was no reason for him to stutter during the speech.
Yeah. It could have given him a good moment to maybe even
say something of worth.
Well, yes, that he was on screen. Screen time is valuable for those of you who want to be filmmakers. That's
the key.
The key. But that also could have been a good. I mean, it was. I guess it was a good place to really kind of add more layers to his motivation. Mm-hmm. But, like you say, because, again, the execution of it was just very strange, and it was more the end of his speech where he's just like, that's not correct. Thank you for coming. Like, I felt like he was about to just take out a gun and just kill everyone in the room.
Yeah.
It was just uncomfortable.
You
should not pick a fight with this person.
Yeah. Oh, God.
I love the Jimmy Kimmel
and the
parody on that.
We should have known. We should have known that had a speck of truth in it. Because Lex Luthor knows who both of these people are.
Yeah.
There's no conceived notions that they're not Batman and Superman. Yeah, he knows from the get-go.
It adds to the drama if there was any good, dramas put into place. Again, good idea, bad execution.
Which I get, like, sort of, because if Amy Adams as Lois Lane can figure out that he's Clark Kent, like that, in Man of Steel, like, she literally does it in 2 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
Lex Luthor, who has all these resources, would be able to, too. So, like, you would get that nitpick if you didn't do that.
Yeah.
But, God, it takes away interesting scenes. The fact that everybody knows everyone's secret identity.
Well, to go off of that, in that scene, everyone's been praising, Ben Affleck and how he's great in this. I thought it was fine, but I think the one moment that I realized, the moment that I thought, what is everybody talking about, is when he goes downstairs and he's just like, oh, I was just looking for the bathroom. One martini.
He plays drunk. Yeah.
One martini too many.
Yeah.
It's just like, this is a good performance? It's just like, even, even though I think Christian Bale is, my definitive Batman will always be Kevin Conroy.
Yeah.
But even Christian Bale and freaking George Clooney could act better than that.
It's like, it's almost like every actor in this film doesn't know how to pretend to be drunk.
Yeah.
Which is weird, because, like, they're not like me, again, who've never had alcohol. I've never had alcohol.
It's not that hard. I mean...
And, like, even I can sort of, like, slur my words and pretend.
Yeah.
These... Oh, okay. I'm gonna keep going.
I'm glad I wasn't in the theater when you were... Because it would have been the most awkward thing ever.
Yeah, me just writing furiously all alone.
It's not like you're a teacher working on like a book report or like grading your students, just hating everybody. Oh shit! Oh, the game really set me up. I literally just crashed into something.
Where are we?
Well, we're about like 45 minutes into the movie. Theoretically.
Yeah. I wrote down, which you just said, interesting concepts, not a good movie.
Yeah.
The dialogue is pretty ugly. We get I think this might be skipping, but
it's all good.
Hold on one sec. Oh, okay. Yeah. No, we're on the right thing. So we get Superman dragging that spaceship or whatever in the Antarctic with that chain. God, that was an ugly CGI thing.
Oh wait,
it
which part
looked
was this
so
again?
bad. He's in the Antarctic and there's like the polar the northern lights, and he's dragging, I think, the alien spaceship to make his Fortress of Solitude. It's out of nowhere. It comes legitimately out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. Like, we just get, again, a trailer in this movie.
Well, it's a checklist. This movie is a checklist of like, okay, we need to have this in the movie, this in the movie. Okay, it's here. All right, moving on. Like, that's what it is.
Literally, like, it seems like they took everybody's fan fiction and everybody's, like, things that they wanted to see in this movie, and again, made it, like you said, into a checklist where they were like, okay, well, we want him to have a fortress. Everybody says that this alien ship could be his Fortress of Solitude. Well, fucking, he's Superman. He's strong. He could just drag it there. Like, why did we need to see it? Why couldn't he just say it offhand to somebody?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I guess it would have been, it's either that or, I could use a fortress. One that's kind of solitude-like, More like a Justice League. Oh my god.
Okay, so Senator, what is her name? June Finch, which stupid character, but we see her on CNN with Anderson Cooper, which is a great scene. Sarcasm.
Yeah, I was gonna say I wasn't sure if that was real sarcasm.
This jumped out at me really badly. They lowercased Senator June Finch. Mm-hmm. What? Like, you would never do that on the news. You'd never not put a capital S for senator, let alone not capitalize her first and last name.
Well, maybe it's like a deep message, man. Maybe it's lowercase because
like,
we know she won't
she's
last
a woman. She's a woman.
Well, I was gonna say that like she won't last too long in the movie. Don't get too attached, guys.
Yeah.
She's about to die.
And then I was like, okay. At some point, I just lost it. I was like, fuck. There's no goddamn difference between Clark Kent and Superman. There's no... That was the nuance and the interesting parts of Christopher Reeve's Superman and Clark Kent. Brendan Routh does a fairly good job at it in Superman Returns, even though that's not a great movie. Like, he does a good job making a clear line of who Clark Kent is, why Clark Kent is that way, and who Superman is.
Right.
Fucking, this Clark Kent is just Superman with glasses.
Yeah.
Like, he Perry White, he's like got the same fucking monotone voice. He's got the same posture. He's like overly boisterous. And he's just like, what about the Bat Vigilante? He's got the same voice.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to tell me that there's people don't know the difference between Clark Kent and Superman. Fine, but give me a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Have the hair be a little different. Have the way he holds himself be a little bit different. In the New 52, like it or not, they did some incredible things of how they transformed that wall of beefcake into this sort of unconfident man who you would never assume is Superman. They have him wear this huge oversized sweatshirt in like the first Action Comics, and it's awesome. Like you believe it, you buy it. And then, you know, as Superman, he doesn't have the suit yet, but he has like a T-shirt, like the New 52 logo, and he's got the cape, but the shirt's really tight and fucking his arms are huge.
Right.
But they give him like an XXL sweatshirt when he's Clark Kent, and you're like, he looks like a skater dude. He doesn't look like, you know, Superman.
I mean, there's no real way to defend. I mean, that's just pretty much this whole thing has just been like, this huge point. Well, I guess, but yeah, you're right. But still, you know, obviously in American superheroes, everything is like that. Where there's a very fine line, well, not a fine line. There's a clear difference between the alter ego superhero character and then just the normal guy trying to fit in. You know, like I can't even like try to defend them. Be like, oh, maybe they were trying to like sort of blur the line to represent some kind of ambiguity or you know something like that.
Yeah, there's I mean, at least provide us with a reason why you're doing the thing you're doing.
Yeah. This is like my 4th time playing this.
This level.
I don't know what I'm doing. Can we please play another game?
I don't think after this discussion.
Yeah, sure.
Let's finish this off. But I think this is what all of the movie universes fail. And I think it's why Marvel, up until this point, have had Tony Stark come out and say, I'm Iron Man. Had Captain America not have a secret identity. Have, you know, all these different characters not have secret identities. And why Civil War is not about really secret identities, but rather registering with the U.S. government. Is because I don't think they realize how an alter ego works. How a person psychologically decides, okay, well, when I'm at home and sitting on the couch with chips on my stomach and like a sloth, this is how I am. When I'm out saving the world with my giant cod piece, this is how I am. Like they don't understand what an alter ego means to the audience goer. The alter ego, the Clark Kent, your Peter Parker, your Bruce Wayne when he's in the cave, not Bruce Wayne when he's out playboying. But like these people who aren't the hero, that's how you're supposed to connect.
Right.
Like you're not going to be able to connect with a guy who can fly around the world. You're not going to be able to connect with the dude who wears this big rubber mask. You know, Peter Parker, Spider-Man has the even bigger difficulty of he's got a basketball head and you can't see his mouth. You can't see any features of his face.
He's a teenager still trying to balance his life and manage it, whereas those guys are adults and they, you know, while it's a struggle, when you're a teenager, it's different.
Yeah, it's easier for them, I would say, the adults, because they are adults. They have less going on. But they don't get it. They don't understand why Clark Kent's there for people who are clumsy, unconfident, who won't speak up for themselves, to feel like they could be Superman. That's why Superman was such a big hit when it came out, was not only because of Superman, but because Clark Kent.
Right.
Like that characterization matters.
You need that other half of the character in order for it to be complete.
And that's why people are compelled. I was having a conversation the other day with this person, and they were saying, I love this character. I love Robin, the New 52 Robin. And I was like, that's awesome. Like, why? And she was saying that how she felt about, Robin when I think the version is Damian Wayne.
Yeah,
but feels about Damian when he's not Robin. Like, when the mask is off, that's, I mean, the action is awesome, and that's when you have the costume on, but you gotta connect with your audience somehow. Right. And I don't connect to this modern skinny tie Clark Kent wearing, like, it just, I don't get why nobody goes, okay, yeah, that's Superman. Well, of course. Like, he wears tight-fitting shirt, like he's not an everyman.
Yeah. Well, it's always that aspect of humanity, the humanity of it. I mean, for me, I've always been a big Batman fan, but I'm just trying to sort of tie this into, what am I trying to say here? Obviously Star Wars is something that's very different, but despite all the weird random elements of it, there's always that element of humanity. I mean, it's in a lot of movies where, like, if there's something you can't relate to, you always need that human character. You always need that relatable person. I mean, if you look at, like, obviously, like, saying that Star Wars characters like superheroes for me is kind of a stretch, but, like, in a lot of ways, the story of superheroes and Star Wars is very Shakespearean. It's very tragic, and that sort of switch between the superhero and the human is, fairly interesting, because I see... And always, like, I see, like, Darth Vader, for example, there's obviously layers to that character. It's not just a dude in a robot suit, There's a lot of aspects of his humanity that he has to reject. And, in a lot of ways, other characters like Batman, like... Especially what I like with the animated series is that, like, Batman's the real person and Bruce Wayne's just the facade. And, in a way, he kind of has to reject a lot of his humanity or things that he doesn't like about himself. It's like the Jim Lee comic, where it's like, deep down, Clark is a good person, and deep down, I'm not. But at least there is that sort of, like, admitting to, like, flaws, whereas this Superman is kind of just like, I didn't kill anybody.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything
I
wrong.
fucking didn't punch that dude through, like, 3 walls of cement. All right.
He at least looks good as Superman. I'll give him that.
Henry Cavill, jacked out of his mind. That's great for him. He's. I don't want to upset anybody, but he kind of clearly is losing his hair. Like his hairline is sort of receding.
I think we're about to get a lot of dislikes now.
Fucking God! But Henry Cavill's hairline makes me so wet. That's my girl voice.
Okay.
It was more of just a whine.
That was alright. I was like, that just happened.
I think Perry White's line of "It's not 1938" was a big middle finger from Zach Snyder to all the fans. And the fact that people didn't react to that, the fact that people didn't go, "Hey, Zach Snyder hates us," really bothers me. Like, he has Perry White just be like, "Oh, it's not 1938 and nobody cares about the Bat Vigilante." Except for the fact that 5 minutes ago, everybody was like, fucking, there's a Bat Vigilante? What the fuck is this shit?
Right.
Which makes no sense in the context of the movie, because he's been there for 20 years. But, whatever.
Putting that aside.
Gal Gadot, I think, despite all the...
You're just, like, seething with rage right now.
No, I'm going to go into a glimmer of hope here. Gal Gadot, I think they wrote her character fairly bland. They didn't give her enough to do.
Which is sad because Wonder Woman is, like, the definition
really interesting.
Well, no, yeah, she's interesting, but she's also, like, the definition of, like, female superhero, strong female superhero. And again, I ask, how the hell could you fuck this up with the time you had to make this? And,
like, okay, the accent was a little weird. I don't know if that's Gal Gadot's actual accent, but it was a little weird. But I thought, despite all the, like, they're calling it slim shaming, which just sounds like Slim Shady to me. I thought I bought her as, like, even though she's not this hulking woman, she could handle herself. The way she sort of held her body, the way she moved, I thought she seemed strong to me. She seemed like she could have this sort of combat training, and I didn't mind her. She was not given enough to do.
Yeah. And I mean, even though I don't really love Ben Affleck that much, I think the chemistry between her and Ben was really good in that one.
And
scene.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, it was very
looking at the knife or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it was very like Catwoman-esque.
Yeah.
But still, it was good.
It was definitely interesting, to say the least. The first time we get a really good look, this bothered me. The first time we get a really good look at the Batsuit is in the nightmare sequence, where it's not the full Batsuit. It's the trench coat and the fucking goggles. Why? Why would you let that be the big first time that we get to see the Batsuit on display? Like, we barely get a glimpse of it in the, where the human trafficking scene. The first time we get to see it in the bright of day is the nightmare sequence, which A, didn't actually happen. B, he kills a shit ton of people, which is weird. And then C, it looks bad because it's super bright and you can see all of the costume's flaws. it looks really rubbery. You can see the fake abs on the costume, like bend and curdle.
It's like a bad Halloween costume.
Yeah, and like, it doesn't make sense that he's wearing this big rubbery suit that would make you sweat your balls off. With a trench coat, with sun goggles, with it looking like it's apocalypse and really hot. Like, he should be pouring sweat, but he's not. And like, it just doesn't make sense. We get the parademons, doesn't make sense. We get the Superman soldiers, again, doesn't really make sense. But I'm willing to
Take
like
a shot every time I fail a mission.
yeah.
The thing is, well, because we both sort of said it would have made sense had Wonder Woman had this like weird nightmare vision or something, and that
because she has to do with more of this Greek mythology, mysticism, and
that would have made more sense. And then when I realized that this was all like Batman's weird dream, I just didn't understand why. And I mean, afterwards you see the Flash and stuff, which I thought was a good idea, but I think most of the audience...
time to have it.
Yeah, and also most of the audience was probably...
Didn't know what the fuck was happening.
Yeah, and here's the thing. This is something also with DC that does bother me, and this includes a lot of their animated stuff, too. DC is not very inviting sometimes when it comes to its source material. It's like, unless you don't... Like, if you're just a casual, like, viewer and you really don't know what's going on, you're really not going to learn much more.
Yeah.
Whereas Marvel is a lot more casual and more inviting with stuff, especially with their movies, and I think because it is more inviting and because the movies obviously are a lot better... There's a reason why the ratio between Marvel and DC fans is very skewed to one side, and I wish DC would do a little bit more of that. I mean, I don't know if you heard this, but recently they're doing massive reshoots, like spending millions of dollars doing reshoots on Suicide Squad to make it funnier.
Great!
Like, and I get why... But it's very obvious that they have no confidence in their own style, and you know I'm more acceptable with the animation stuff not being as inviting because the animation stuff is clearly for the fans who grew up with it or the fans who really care. Like Young Justice, as much as I love that show, there are definitely sometimes where I have to like look something up, or I'm like, wait, what? Where did this come from?
Yeah.
So
and you know what, I'm okay with the animated stuff, the like animated movies because. They're based on particular comics. So for me, like, I'm always
like... They're for hardcore fans.
Yeah, so. Yes and no. Like, I always feel like... like, the Justice League War, I thought was, like, an interesting way to tie in all the characters.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet. Oh, shit.
But,
my expensive mind.
Knock it over.
Yeah.
While you're raging at this video game and I'm raging.
Yeah, because I clearly know what I'm doing here. If any of you know how to beat this, please comment, like, subscribe, share.
Definitely the subscribe part.
Yeah. Check out our Uvu page, our Tinder page, our Bumble page.
Swipe right, if you know what I mean.
Oh, Jesus.
They should definitely... maybe that's a good promotion thing. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you know, Red Letter Media, like, made fun of that. Just, like, check out, like, my Vagina People account, and, like...
Our what is it called?
What's up?
Like oh shit. Coffee Meets Bagel. it's like oh okay well I don't know if that's particularly Jewish, but kind of seems like it is.
If that's particularly Jewish.
Particularly Jewish. There's my Jewish voice.
Oh god.
Don't. I'm not. I love the Jewish people. I eat bagels all the time.
I love it how you're like, don't. I love the Jewish people. Oh, 9, you didn't.
I enjoy some hamantashen.
Oh my god.
And other Jewish snacks. Anyway, am
I winning right now?
I don't know.
I don't fucking know. I mean,
I thought the Flash intro was dumb. mostly because he had a scarf in front of his mouth.
You
couldn't see his face.
Yeah, I wasn't able to get out his costume that well. I was trying to Google it afterwards. I was like, "What the fuck is this costume? Like, what does it look like?"
Yeah.
And I just couldn't find anything. So
it like you see it like there's a picture of.
I came too soon.
Imagine sploosh all over Ben Affleck's face.
He just like wakes up with just like white all over his face.
And then like it's like, oh god, no. And then
I have to stop Superman.
And then he's splooshed all over my face. No, but then the hot model is like standing over him and is like, oh, sorry, I was suntan lotion. Like it's just a weird misdirect, like a weird sexual misdirect. So their reason to fight in this movie is very.
Oh, it's fucking horrible.
It's so thin.
Yeah, it's like
it's thinner than Zack Snyder's penis, and that's saying a lot.
Because he fact checked that and he knows it.
I unfortunately had to do some measurements for him. It was a weird job.
You just sound like very serious. You're kind of scaring me right now.
No, that was a joke.
Yeah, I know, but I'm like.
Fortunately, never seen Zack Snyder's Man of Steel or member of Peel.
Okay.
Keel and Key.
Anyway, let's get. The problem is, it's way too thin. It could have been resolved with a conversation, as a lot of other people have been saying. Yeah. It would have been fine if it was just a clash of their ideologies. But the problem is Superman's ideologies were very hypocritical and didn't make any sense.
Nope.
So the fighting looked nice, but
had no substance.
Yeah, and also
that's why I like Civil War. I'm excited for Civil War.
Well, it's because there's been so much setup for that. It's very clear that
so much time.
Yeah,
and like we love these characters that we kind of want to see them punch each other, but we also we don't know who to root for. And in this movie, I was rooting for them to kill each other because I didn't like either of them.
Well, you're just hoping they make a reboot, and they...
I honestly, had they at the end of this movie not killed Superman, but had him punch, they did with bringing Jason Todd back to life. Mm-hmm. He just punched Doomsday so hard that he broke reality. And they just rebooted the entire series. I think I may have liked it as a movie, and just made it good movies. Then, I honestly, I would have forgiven it. So the plot's convoluted. It's not really a movie. That was one of the things I had against The Force Awakens, because of the pace and stuff. This is less than a movie than The Force Awakens is. The Force Awakens, at least, is to me enjoyable. More enjoyable than this movie. This movie attempts to be too grounded in reality, but then they use the comic book elements and they don't mesh. You can't. It doesn't work. Batman killing people, just each time he did it, just bothered me more and more. The amount of people he murders going after the kryptonite is an insane number. I don't know if anybody's done an actual count. I think Bandit Incorporated did a count where he said around 55. That's insane.
In the movie, 55?
55 people in, I think, that sequence. That's an insane number of people to murder in one night. That puts you past serial killer into domestic terrorism, but even though these are bad people, that fucking okay, you've never seen it, but the anime Death Note, in the anime he kills people who are criminals in jail. He makes them have heart attacks, and even though they're criminals, the worst of the worst, rapists, murderers, all these things, and they're proven, that's why they're in prison. The FBI comes after the kid who's doing this because they're like, the fuck, why are all these people dying? And even though they're horrible people that they would, everybody in the world has a sort of twinge where you'd like to see them die, there's still repercussions. Batman, Superman don't face repercussions, except for Superman trying to save people and then causing at least 9/11s.
They do point out, again, as a reaction to Man of Steel, they're like, "Oh, it's fine. This part of the city's abandoned,"
which is never true. There's at least one kid doing graffiti who just got demolished.
Right.
But this is another nugget of niceness within all the shit. I really liked Ben Affleck Batman at the computer without the mask. I thought he looks really great in the suit at this point in time. It was really well lit. His fucking wig was really nice. And I just that comes into some of the elements that I'm talking about, whereas we see him without the mask. We see him in this place where I prefer the Batman, where Batman isn't Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne isn't Bruce Wayne, but rather the man in the cave is Bruce Wayne, is the true Bruce, is the Bruce who lived through his parents being shot. The kid who was sort of stunted as an 8-year-old. When he's with Alfred, that's when he's his true self. When he is in the Batcave with Superman, who has stopped putting on his Superman persona and is sort of Clark Kent before he started acting Clark Kent.
Right.
I find those moments really interesting, and so that moment there, I liked seeing that. I kind of wish they would have spent more time on it and showed how draining being back in the suit would be to him. But they didn't.
There's no time, man. You got to cut to the next big thing.
Yeah. Why have dialogue? Okay, here's another big one. Martha Kent saying to Superman, "You don't owe them anything." He has the worst parents in the world in this universe.
Oh yeah.
The whole point, the most amazing, one of the most amazing monologues in movie history is from the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, and Jor-El, Marlon Brando, amazing actor, says, "The reason I sent you, these are good people. They wish to be. They only lack the light to show them the way. For that reason, above all else, I send them you, my only son." Very Jesus imagery, very Moses imagery, but we get the reason why Jor-El decides to send Clark off.
Right.
And he ends up with the best people. He ends up in the middle of Kansas, just the people who would welcome in a child who has no home, the people who would break the law so that this kid doesn't have to go into the foster system, so this kid doesn't have to be in an orphanage. They forge papers, they take him in as their son, they treat him no different than any other kid on the block. These are the people that he should end up with. These are the people who instill good values in him. The point where he is supposed to be hopeful. He is supposed to save the world. These people are supposed to give him the values that make him want to be the hero that would save the world. The person who would die at the hands of Doomsday to save people he doesn't know.
Only to wake up from a healing coma and everything's fine.
But that's why I love the death of Superman. I think it's really compelling. I don't agree with Max Landis, but that's neither here nor there. That sacrifice comes from Pa Kent, comes from Martha Kent. The whole tornado thing, I've talked about it a million times. Dumb.
I think it's dumb too. But I do actually like the idea. Even though it didn't make any freaking sense when Superman went up the mountain and talked to his dad as like a ghost or something.
Why? I think Kevin Smith said this. Why couldn't you have that scene in the Fortress of Solitude where it makes sense that he's having this weird acid trip talking to his dead father? Like, we get no context for that scene. It just fucking happens out of nowhere. Like, Superman doesn't he's not schizophrenic. He doesn't have magical images of dead people. That's never been one of his powers.
Right.
Despite having super ventriloquism
and shooting at the cellophane S's.
Yeah. He's never had like hallucinogenic powers. So I wish that they would get Martha and Jonathan Kent correct, because they're so important. Like, Bruce's parents are not as important as his parent as Clark's parents.
Well, they don't stay around for
they don't.
very long.
Yeah, exactly.
As long as you don't make them like absolute douchebags.
Yeah.
And like, you know.
Because then how would Bruce have become a good kid?
Yeah.
You know. But that bothers me every single time. What parent? Not what parent, but what the best people? Why would they ever say you don't owe them anything? Like, yeah, that's something a real parent would say, but that's not going to inspire Superman to sacrifice his life.
Yeah.
Like, what essentially we're getting from that scene is Superman is a rebellious, moody teenager in this movie that is just like, he should hear in the back of his head his mom saying, "You don't owe them anything, Clark." So he should just fly off and save his mother and ignore Doomsday to just destroy the world. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't. So where does that inspiration come from?
I don't know.
Nowhere.
Nowhere.
That's not how a movie works, let alone a comic book movie. Okay.
It's okay, man. It's okay.
It has Force Awakens pacing problems.
What the hell is the ship doing? It was just like humping me from behind. Just thought I'd share.
The Lex Luthor bomb inside of the wheelchair, which nobody, because there's no context for this, nobody's entirely sure whether Lex Luthor put the bomb in the wheelchair or the guy put the bomb in the wheelchair.
Yeah, the guy's pretty nuts. So
like, because
if he did it on his own, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, because Lex says, you know, he pushes him to do things, but we never see him give him a bomb or anything, and like, so we don't know. I mean, Lex knows clearly enough to leave the senator a jar of piss, which was weird.
Yeah.
Like, had the bomb not gone off,
it was a funny joke.
It's a jar of DNA.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
Just if that's the real world. Is no one's gonna find this exploded urine, Lex Luthor's DNA, everywhere? Like, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think Superman. Okay, so great concept. I think it's really interesting to have all these people die around Superman and make him all sad. Mm-hmm. I think again that's one of this movie's great concepts. But as soon as that bomb starts to explode, the Flash, Superman, these people can move so quickly. There's no way Superman doesn't just go to the guy in the wheelchair and hug him and hug the bomb and take the explosion to his stomach so that he saves at least half of the people in that room. Mm-hmm. Like, he's got super hearing that's on 24/7. Mm-hmm. I'm okay with the fact that he doesn't X-ray the whole room. Because, you know, that's something he turns on. It's
his priority is to try to make his image look better. And, I mean, I'm sure he's not suspecting that at the moment. I mean, I do like the idea that he does get blamed for it.
Yeah.
And that adds to the tension. But
that's immediately removed.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, we know Superman didn't do this. And it's like, well, then, like, why have the scene in the first place? It's like 2 seconds later, it's in a news report.
Right.
But I don't get it. Like, I don't... Like, at least... You know, have Superman have this conflict of, like, he's distracted as the bomb goes off. Or, I mean, again, we've never seen him have super breath, but he could have just extinguished the bomb. Mm-hmm. Just done. Like, so, you gotta, if you want to give that circumstance, you gotta put him in a situation. There's a great comic, oh god, I'm forgetting the writer, but there's a great comic where Superman is essentially tortured by Lex Luthor, where he's put in these kryptonite cuffs, and like he has to watch people die, and there's nothing he can do about it, and it's horrible. It's like it pulls him apart to the point where like he can't sleep, and like he's got these giant like craters under his eyes, and like his hair's all floppy, and there's no spit curl, and so you can tell he's distressed. And like that's interesting, that's compelling, but this isn't. Like, it's like they took a step in a direction and then decided not to follow through. And that's just annoying. It's bothering me. I don't know. Superman and Lois scene with the Man of Steel music was nice, but that's where it starts. The Man of Steel music comes in every other scene after that. We get the dun 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 dun.
You remember more than I do. I do not remember that.
You know that theme? We used it in our Batman v Superman trailer, where it's like when Clark is reading the letter from Jonathan Kent, and it's that weird, just like
the piano music.
Yeah, it's very like light and
whatever.
It's very light and flowy, and it is very emotional. But fuck, it gets used a lot in this movie. Mm-hmm. Like whenever they're like, you gotta feel something, they put this music in, and then you get you become desensitized to it. All right, another page gone. Forced emotions. I'm just gonna read off some of these. Forced emotions. Kill me now. The engagement ring.
That was so cliche.
I called it.
Dude, I called that too. I was like, oh my god, they just go there.
Wow, so dumb. So dumb.
Do you remember what that's to? It's just like, oh, it's so dumb.
Okay, the music is awful because they keep reusing that theme. The CGI is awful. Gotham gets its own 9/11. Woo. So, literally, what we're saying is these are twin cities. They're right next to each other.
Yeah.
Why are these two cities not on constant alert from the U.S. government? Like,
no idea.
It's honestly like, in the age that we live in, if this was the real world, we had such heightened security after 9/11.
Yeah.
Why isn't this happening here? If this is the real world, I don't know. Why doesn't the I don't know if this means here. There's a moment, I don't know exactly where it is, where Superman saves Lois right next to the kryptonite, and it doesn't affect him. Like, it affects him every other time in this movie, but there is a moment where he saves her, and nothing. So
wait, which part?
That was
this?
Weird. It's right around where Batman has the spear.
Oh.
He saves Lois, and the kryptonite isn't affecting him, and it's weird. Like,
wait, it's not affecting Superman or Batman? I'm confused.
Oh, you know what? It's when she's drowning. She goes to get the spear, right?
Yeah.
And she's like drowning.
She's the one who put it in there.
Yeah, which again, unneeded scene, but we get a Lois Lane action scene, which makes her badass. Except she has to be saved.
Yeah. Again.
So Superman comes in, right, and he pulls the roof off of the water that she's in, and like he saves her. But this kryptonite's right there. Why isn't he affected by the kryptonite spear that's right there? He's affected by it every other time.
Because the movie demanded it that he not be affected at that one moment.
We get a lot of imagery. I think the only reason we got a kryptonite spear in this movie than anything else is because Jesus was killed by a spear. I literally think that's the only reason.
Yeah, that would make
why we
sense.
Get a spear in this movie.
It's just so like overly religious.
Yeah. Then again, the Man of Steel music comes in. The Man of Steel like main theme, the dun dun dun, and we get Superman and Lois telling each other they love each other. We really don't get enough time to see them together. Like, they kiss at the end of Man of Steel, and then they're fucking like in a full blown relationship by the time of this movie. It's like we see no building.
I was reading this article about like all the big problems with Batman v Superman, and they said, you know, one of the big ones was that relationship, and they said they were like, okay, I want you to like really tell me a scene where their chemistry shows, and don't give me anything about the comics or anything. Just give me the two movies, and they're just like, go ahead, I'm waiting.
Yeah, exactly. So here's the big one. You know it if you've been here because this is all spoilers. The death of Superman. This is way too soon. I've talked about it before, but the reason the death of Superman is impactful is we got 60 years of comics before that. It was an emotional moment because Superman at that point, in everyone's eyes, was beloved. In this movie, he's not. Everybody fucking hates Superman. So why do they give a shit that he dies?
Also, my when I first saw that, I was like, they're not going to kill him, are they? No. I was like, what's the point? Because he's coming back anyway.
Yeah, we know.
Which we know because they've been constantly, like, I've been, they're...
shoving Henry Cavill's body down our faces.
With, like, pictures of him on Facebook or some social media. Basically just saying, like, he's getting ready for Justice League or, like, these characters are getting ready. So it's like, once you reveal all of that, it diffuses all the tension of him dying.
Yeah, there's no emotional impact.
Like, I didn't think they were going to go that soon. Like, I knew, like, we saw Doomsday in the trailer, but I didn't think they were going to actually kill him off.
Yeah. I thought it would maybe be a misdirect. Maybe we'd get the death of a different character. Yeah. But no, we get the death of Superman, and it's dumb. It's really, really dumb. And also, the death of Superman, I think we've talked about this. I know that you haven't read it completely.
Which thing?
The comic, The Death of Superman.
I mean, I think I've read like parts of it when I was younger. I did have a copy of it.
But Superman gets the shit kicked out of him.
Yeah, I've seen
that is one of the most graphic Superman fights there ever was because it's one of the first times we saw Superman bleed. We see him literally get the shit kicked out of him. His clothes are entirely torn. And this Superman dies from one punch. One punch from Doomsday because it's a spear to the chest.
Right.
And it goes through his super suit that can't rip. And the only reason that suit is super and the same strength as his skin is because they didn't want to rip it up like they had to do with Peter Parker's suit in all the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies because that was expensive.
Right.
They didn't want to have all these different Superman suits. But you don't get any sense of danger for Superman. I mean, like, he's like, oh, kryptonite, it's making me feel sick. But we never see blood drawn from him by Batman. We never see, except for the tiny cut on his face.
Was there also a reason why, like, another YouTuber that I watched pointed this out, and I agree, why couldn't they just have stuck the spear somewhere, and then, or maybe have Wonder Woman hold the spear? Like, why couldn't have Wonder Woman have killed Doomsday?
I don't know.
Like,
I don't know.
The thing.
Why couldn't he have thrown the spear? It's a spear.
Yeah.
That's how the weapon works.
Like, I don't understand the lack of logic with that. And the only reason why is because the script demanded that he be killed, so people could feel something, and
it made me feel worse about this movie. If that's what you wanted me to feel.
Horrible idea.
Yep.
Like, what were they thinking?
Fuck if I know.
Like, but it's like you're setting up. You're setting up this universe.
And then you take one of the three characters you have.
And then just kill him off.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
I called him a pussy, by the way. When he died from one punch, I was like, what a pussy. Like, the Superman from The Death of Superman, like I said a million times, he gets the shit kicked out of him. We see the S ripped off of his chest. He's got giant gashes across his chest. And the whole time we get this inner monologue from Clark Kent. We get... I have to remember who I am. I have to remember that I'm Clark Kent from Kansas. I'm from Clark Kent from Smallville. My mother is Martha Kent. My father is Jonathan Kent. It's really emotional. He sort of has this inner monologue, like, reminding him who he is and why he's doing this. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's impactful. We don't get any of that in this movie. We don't get why this guy would die.
Yeah.
And it happens like that. We don't get Superman taking a punch from Doomsday that hurts him to the point where he can barely get up, but he still does. Mm-hmm. Instead, we get Doomsday hit the ground and produce lightning and destroy 3 blocks. It's just... Again, I said the Death of Superman not earned. I said kill me. It's not even sad. Forced emotions.
You gotta admit though, the funeral, like the scene itself, like the way it was framed and the way it was filmed, trying to put aside the dumb decisions of the entire movie, it does at least, I don't know, it made me feel a little sad, I guess. Even
I didn't feel a thing.
I was still, like, really mad, but at the same time, I was like, okay, if this movie was good, this actually would have been a really nice moment.
Well, okay, so that's where we get the engagement ring, right?
Yeah.
Where Lois gets it from Martha Kent, and, again, dumb, so predictable. As soon as she says, I want to show you something, you're like, oh, fuck, he's going to propose. And, like,
so
we don't... The audience doesn't get that earlier in the film. Like, so there's no dramatic irony for Lois. Like, we don't know something that she doesn't.
Right.
It's just... And then, why is there bagpipes at Clark's funeral? He's not Scottish. He's not Irish. Kent isn't an Irish name.
Because it would have looked cool.
It's just because that's what we associate bagpipes with. But the thing is, like, okay, sometimes we get bagpipes at, like, a police funeral. Superman's not a police officer. So there's literally no reason for there to be bagpipes at this movie other than bagpipes that's quoted to be said the saddest sounding instrument.
Right. They probably did
and they're like, feel sad, feel sad.
Yeah, I was going to say, they probably just did that research. They're like, okay, what's the saddest instrument to generate this kind of emotion? I know, bagpipes. Let's go with that.
Okay, quote... written down while I was watching the movie, fuck this stupid fucking piece of shit.
Oh shit. Oh, I think I finally got it.
Yes!
After, like, I knew I was supposed to do something. Okay. Anyway, yeah, that, so I don't disagree. I wanted it to be good. I don't know how it could have sucked as much as it did.
Wait, okay. Written on his tombstone, right? We get, on Superman's tombstone, we get a quote. We get, if you seek his monument, look around you. Now, are we supposed to look at the destroyed cities? Are we supposed to look at the buildings that'll never be there again? Like, I don't understand. Like, the monument that they defaced, is that the monument? He's not actually God, so he didn't create Earth. It's not like God died and they're saying, oh, look around you. If you want to see his monument, look around you. Because that's a quote about God that they decide to throw, another religious thing they throw on there. But the thing is, Superman... trying to beat it, yeah. Superman didn't create Earth in 7 days. Yeah. Like, so the Earth isn't his monument.
Right.
So the only monuments we get is destroyed Smallville, destroyed Metropolis, destroyed Gotham, and a wedding ring, I guess. I don't fucking know. I thought, okay, the Wonder Woman, the Ben Affleck Gal Gadot ending where he's like, I failed him in life. I was like, this would have been good if it was in a good movie.
Yeah.
But again, he says, I failed him in life. I won't fail him in death. The whole time he was trying to kill him. So how does he... Like, he super failed him in life because he was trying to murder him.
Right.
So what I don't get is, like... And, okay, just a quick flashback. He says to Martha Kent, Batman says, I'm a friend of your son's. The entire movie he's trying to murder him. And he's like, I'm your son's friend. And she's like, oh, I assumed because of the suit.
What?
She's never seen anybody dressed up like Superman before.
Yeah.
Aside from her son. She's never seen him be friends with anybody else who's calls him a superhero. Why does she assume that?
Mm-hmm.
Fuck, I don't know.
Forced joke.
Just a forced joke, yeah. When Batman says, I failed him in life, I won't fail him in death, we get the Man of Steel music again. For like the 5th time. We get dun dun dun. And it, goes on. And then Lex Luthor, where he's getting his head shaven. Dumb.
I thought it was because of kryptonite. That's what, literally most people's predictions of this movie is 10 times better than what we actually got.
Yeah.
It's so sad to say that.
Yep.
Oh, God damn it.
The quick flashbacks. Other heroes shoehorned in at the laptop. So dumb. Lex Luthor designs their logos. That's weird.
We basically just get trailers because they share emails. Like, I was literally just...
Batman, okay. Batman sends an email from his private Bruce Wayne account saying, who are you? oh, look out, we've got the world's greatest detective over here.
It's like that, what's that weird anonymous, not dating thing, but it's like, what was it? It's like, are you like a boy or a girl, or, you know what I'm talking about? That, you would like joke around with that. You don't know what I mean.
I think I sort of know.
There's like a name there's a name for it where it's like, Instant Messenger, and everyone's got like, he showed me like freshman year. I don't know. It's
yeah, no.
You'll probably think about it after.
Yeah. It is so petty. It is so dumb. Superman. I fucking no. I'm so confuzzled by this movie. Bruce Wayne would never contact anybody through email,
and
unless
certainly not show us trailers of future.
Yeah,
movies.
unless he was contacting from. Like, I don't know, like, and also it's clearly Gmail, right? It's clearly like
just another
Google
sponsor.
Docs, yeah, and like it's like Bruce Wayne doesn't have his own website and he doesn't have his own web address. Like, just.
I honestly was like anticipating seeing like coming August like 2017 Aquaman movie, and then clicking away and then clicking to the next thing. See, I thought, okay, fine, Flash cameo, whatever. What I thought they were gonna do for Cyborg would have been a better idea was have Cyborg like as one of the victims of the Metropolis event.
Mm-hmm. Would have been interesting.
And at least I know there's a scene where Clark is watching TV. Mm-hmm. There could have been a moment where he's getting dragged out and put into like a hospital truck. Mm-hmm. And sure, that might not have been the most obvious Easter egg, but that would have been a lot better than literally just seeing some dude experimenting that you could have saved for the Cyborg movie itself. Yeah. Yeah. Like, I get why they had to show that, but it's just, it was so forced. And also, I don't get why is there so much like Aquaman merchandise when he shows up in the movie for like
second.
Like, at least The Force Awakens didn't sell a lot of Luke Skywalker stuff figures, because he shows up for like
a second.
Yeah, so at least they get that right, but I don't get it. I really don't.
I really didn't like, despite the fact that it's used in Dark Knight Returns, I really didn't like the kryptonite gas as the first way to use the kryptonite, because we don't get an explanation of how Batman is like boiling the kryptonite down. We don't get how he like breaks it apart into gas. We just get shot of kryptonite, shot of canisters, and we're just made to assume, okay, he put it in there, I guess. I wrote down, I feel nothing for these characters. Doomsday looks like shit.
As most people.
When Doomsday shows up, there's another 20 9/11s. Because for every building, that's one 9/11.
What was the logic of... I mean, I know they're paying homage to Bizarro, but at least the way that came off in the movie was confusing when Lex Luthor was just like...
Cuts his hand.
It was like,
he's able to use Kryptonian technology.
Yeah, he just automatically knows, like, all I have to do is just dump the body in the pool and then just put some blood in there, and there you go. You got giant gray monster.
Also, somebody else pointed this out. I'm not going to take credit for it, but... Lois Lane is immediately shot when she goes into the ship the first time.
Yeah.
And she's an unauthorized person from Earth. She's not a Kryptonian. Why is Lex Luthor not shot?
No idea.
Why does the security not go against him?
Because it was 37% charge, and they didn't have that.
It would have been interesting. Maybe he gets shot, by one of those things, but he falls into the birthing matrix. That would have cut out that entire, like, oh... We need to... Lex is communicating with the computer, and he cuts his hand, and it's so forced. I thought the amounts of, like, this is uninhabited, or Superman trying to take Doomsday up into space and then get hitting with nukes, and that's the explanation for why we get destruction, is so much trying to save face from Man of Steel. Of, like, in Man of Steel, everyone said, oh, why not just take Zod into space? So Superman tries to take Doomsday into space. But no, because we're idiots. Because the American people are idiots. The American government is an idiot. We shoot him with nukes. And bring the threat back here.
Right.
And another point that somebody pointed out, not me, scientifically that doesn't work. If Doomsday gets hit with a nuke in space, the momentum would push him further away from Earth. Doomsday can't fly. Right. So he would just float off into the abyss. So there's no reason that he'd get pulled back to Earth. How are you going to science that shit?
Superhero logic.
The fight was very, like, Zack Snyder doesn't really... Like, he did a really good job in a closed room for Batman, even though Batman stabs a dude in the chest. That's a very well shot fight scene, but the final fight scene is a mess. Like, we jump all over the place, and there is no way to tell what's going on.
We gotta save my mom. I don't want to listen to you. Let's just fight.
Martha.
Why would you say that name? I do declare.
Oh, God. Okay. So those are my notes. Those are all of the notes. I cut some of them out because, God, it's...
There's a lot.
All right, so my ratings for each thing. The character... this is very particular, so stick with me. But the characterization of Batman, 0 out of 10. The characterization of Superman. You gotta
give a 1 for at least, like, being on screen as a human on screen.
It's out of 10, so no, he doesn't get any. If it was out of 100, maybe I'd give him, like, 5. Okay. But, Superman, the characterization of Superman, 0 out of 10. The characterization of Wonder Woman, 5 out of 10. It was getting there. Not great. We didn't see a lot of her. Characterization of Lois, 5 out of 10. We don't get the spunky Lois. We don't get shit-talking Lois. We don't get Lois who don't need Superman. The whole reason why Lois and Clark end up together is because Lois doesn't need Clark. And that's the perfect match for him.
Right.
She doesn't need him to be home every night. She doesn't need him to save her. I mean, at least that's what it is recently. And it makes sense that way. The old version doesn't really make sense. She was just his girlfriend then. There was comics. This is essentially that comics version where there was Lois Lane comics. I don't know if you know this. Where it was Lois Lane in the same Superman font, and then it said Superman's girlfriend. So like that's this version of Lois.
That's no good.
No. Characterization of Lex, 0 out of 10. Pace, 1 out of 10. Ben Affleck, 8 out of 10. His performance was good. There was a few moments, little sticky.
Some not so great moments.
Henry Cavill, 1 out of 10. He really doesn't do good in this movie. He is so bland.
I mean, you also gotta blame that on the director.
Granted, director and writing, but like, there are some moments where when he's talking about the Bat Vigilante, he just sounds so disinterested.
Yeah.
Like he's just like, well, who's gonna do stuff about this Bat Vigilante? Like it's just so.
I think the game just crashed.
It's so done.
It doesn't like comprehend.
It's still recording.
Okay. What should I do?
Just turn the console off and turn it back on.
Okay.
It should continue to record. The game just got pissed at the so that this blue screen. And it's still recording. Great. Okay. So yeah, the console just got pissed about the movie as well. It literally had a meltdown.
Well, it's funny because throughout this entire thing, I knew that the AT-ATs needed the fucking cable thing, all right? But for the B button on my controller was not working, which is why it took me forever to figure it out. For those of you gamers out there who think I suck at this game. I'm figuring it out as I go along, okay?
You've also, never played this game before. We just threw you into it. It's just like, oh, well.
And the one time I actually win, the game crashes. So I think I'm just going to go to another game.
Yeah, that sounds good with me.
How about...
oh, God.
Let's do...
All right. Gal Gadot, 8 out of 10. Despite it's not a perfect Wonder Woman, it's pretty... It's pretty funny. Not funny. She acts well, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. For someone who's known for just being Fast and Furious and not much else, it was good.
Costumes. The Superman costume. I've always hated that fucking costume. Gets 0 out of 10.
He's very vocal about that.
This ass looks shit. The whole texture of the suit looks like shit. The fucking crotch region is dumb. Wonder Woman costume. I liked it. 7 out of 10. Batman costume. I liked it. 7 out of 10. I would have preferred it not look like duct tape and a few different things. I like a more sleek bat costume, but you know, I'll deal. Okay, the Bat mech armor. Okay, this armor is very Zack Snyder. It doesn't look like it would function.
Oh no, of course it wouldn't.
The whole chest part looks stupid. The weird belt he has across his chest is dumb. It doesn't even connect to anything. Yeah, so why he has it doesn't make sense. It's like one weird
piece of metal that just like... Again...
So I gave that a 4 out of 10. The glowing eyes is interesting.
Yeah, if we're going by like the rules of comic books, it looks cool, but again, we're trying to establish a realistic world here, so it just doesn't... like, at least the Nolan movies identified the fact that, like, oh, you know, I want to be able to turn my neck, and there's, like, a slightly thinner neckline, and they try to make it a little more practical than what we have gotten out of it. So.
Doomsday, 0 out of 10. A, he looks like shit. B, he's just a plot device. C, he's not really Doomsday.
You're Doomsday.
Yeah, it's really bad. Ideas in this movie. I gave this a category because I was like, all right, this is going to be the redeeming factor. Mm-hmm. There are a few bad ideas in this movie, though. I mean the strictly conceptual, not like how we're going to film the movie. That stuff is shit. But the ideas, the sort of morals and all that stuff, I gave it a 6 out of 10. Plot, 4 out of 10. There's some interesting elements, but damn does it really go downhill. Connectiveness, 2 out of 10. Fucking, there's just scenes. There's barely a thread.
It doesn't matter where the scenes go, really. Pretty much the structure is just all over the place.
The opening, I gave a 4 out of 10, because I really didn't like the trailerness, but like there were elements I liked about it. Uh-huh. Plot holes.
See, guys, I'm doing a lot better with this game.
Yeah, you clearly know this game well. The plot holes in this movie, I would say, okay. So obviously, if I was rating the plot holes, I'd be like, oh, it's 10 out of 10 because there were a lot of them. Yeah. But because plot holes are a bad thing, I gave it a 0 out of 10 because there were a lot of big ones. Martha Kent, 3 out of 10. There's some good moments, but again, she tells her son, you don't owe this world anything. That's a terrible thing for her to say. Makes no sense within the context.
It sounds like something that you would tell like a teenager and not a 40-year-old, 30-year-old man who just like wiped out a good chunk of Metropolis.
Jonathan Kent, 0 out of 10. Fuck, I hate this guy. I love Kevin Costner. Yeah, I think he's a great actor. I think he was a great choice, especially Field of Dreams. He is like the dad you want to have. Yeah. But in this movie, I would never want this dad. Mm-hmm. I'd never want Jonathan Kent to be my dad because fuck, he is dour and just depressing, and there's nothing that makes me say this guy, you know, he's prideful. He would never, you know, I just can't. Visual comic book moments, 8 out of 10. This movie is pretty. This movie is interesting to look at. This movie copies a lot of panels. If that's the only thing you want out of your comic book movie, that's great. 8 out of 10. Writing, fucking 2 out of 10. This.
Oh, I'd rank it worse.
There are good moments, I'll say, but damn, this movie's bad. Writing wise, there's the unconnectedness, the plot holes in it, all that stuff is.
I think David Goyer and Zack Snyder should just stay away from any comic book stuff from now on, especially David Goyer. Yeah. I blame most of this movie on the writing, or pretty much all of it. And what's
99% of it.
What's sad is that they have another was it Chris Terrio from Argo?
Yeah.
They have another writer.
That's just
and
it's astounding.
It still fucking sucks.
Yep. All right. Getting back to acting and characterizations. Jesse Eisenberg as an actor, I gave him an 8 out of 10. Lex Luthor, 0 out of 10. Perry White, 7 out of 10. He wasn't completely my Perry White, but he was a character, and he did things, and he was fun.
Because Perry White's originally white.
Fishburne, I gave an 8 out of 10. There were some bad moments.
Did you just call him Fishburg?
Fishburne. Fishburg. There was actually, this is weird, like offhanded thing, but when I was in middle school, there was a kid in my class named
Fishburne.
No, his last name was Fishburg.
Uh-oh.
So that's maybe that's
a shout out to you, man.
Yeah. I think your first name was Bleep. I'm not gonna say it on the show, but I think I remember it.
No language here.
The setup for other movies, 4 out of 10.
Horrible.
Yeah,
I give
pretty
it
bad. I think there's some redeeming qualities, like the Robin costume, I guess, is okay. I was trying to be positive. Emotion in this movie, 2 out of 10. I felt nothing for these characters. I was glad to see Martha and Thomas Wayne die. I was glad to see Superman die. So I didn't really feel anything, and that was a real flaw for this movie. Batman fighting, 7 out of 10. Length of this movie, 2 out of 10.
It's way too long.
It's way too long with nothing happening.
Yeah. That's the worst kind of long movie.
Comic accuracy, 2 out of 10. Zach Snyder read 2 panels of a comic book and based an entire movie on it. Character building, 5 out of 10. There's some good moments, I guess. Lex's plan, 5 out of 10. It's really dumb. It makes no sense. Justification for the plot, 2 out of 10, because there wasn't really any. Music, I gave it a 4 out of 10, because there are good moments, but most of it is Hans Zimmer slapping his dick against a keyboard. Sound effects, 0 out of 10, because fuck, they're bad. The dun-dun-dun-dun kind of weird, trailer stuff is really bad. Fight justification, 2 out of 10.
It's horrible.
It could be resolved with a 1-minute conversation. Dialogue, Jesus Christ. I gave it a 3 out of 10 because there are okay moments. Mm-hmm. But most of it is bloated and terrible. So, put that into the mathematical equation. And we get...
Drum roll, please. The recipe for the secret formula is...
We get 37.57% for this movie. I put it all in. That is a little bit better than the critics are giving it on Rotten Tomatoes right now. Mm-hmm. I broke it down as much as I could. I'd be willing to give it as high as a 39, but no higher. So that is the official rating from me. That is all of my criticism, all of my pulling it apart in little pieces and such. This movie, if you haven't seen this movie, or you have and just don't remember it correctly, or you were high and so you just enjoyed it, I apologize. If you ever watch this movie critically, I hope you don't, because it really is torturous. And especially if you love these characters, it really hurts. It hurts where it shouldn't. I think I do enjoy Marvel movies. Now, I do have criticisms for Marvel movies.
Oh, yeah, they're not perfect.
They're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination.
I did not like Age of Ultron. I could write a whole thesis about why I didn't like it, but...
But I think they're... what Marvel has over DC right now is a few things. The big ones being that there is joy in their movie, there is fun to be had, they're not completely dour, and they're... I can't believe I'm saying this, but the characters that they started off with, nobody cared about. I mean, the reading percent for Iron Man versus Superman, or Iron Man versus Batman, nobody was reading Iron Man comics, and so no one cared that they took a different approach on it. And you can take a different approach with Batman and Superman. You can. I'm okay with that. But when you go so far, when you rip apart what these characters are at their core, you do disjustice. You do disjustice.
You do injustice, Gods Among Us.
Yeah. You really do a disservice to the fans of this material, to the people that this material, like any creative material, has brought people back from the brink of depression, has helped people through hard times in their lives, and to treat it so whimsically, so like it means nothing, is why this movie failed. It really is, because in the end, you just look at it and you go, well, this doesn't have the same emotional ties, the same amount of time and care that the comics did, and it really shows.
I think a lot of people, especially me, are getting a little sick and tired of comic book movies now.
Yeah.
If Civil War sucks, then yeah, I'm officially done with them. But
we need a little break.
Yeah. The thing is, like, and I know Civil War, the reason for any possible dourness or not as
has been justified. It's been earned.
And also, we've had 10 movies to justify it.
And the Marvel movies have typically been very bright and fun-loving. And so to get a gritty look at the universe is interesting,
right?
Is compelling, is something that we want to see. You don't want your first outing with Superman to be miserable. That's not what the character's about.
Right.
You're not. We got a Batman treatment for Superman in Man of Steel, and that was the worst.
Space Batman.
It was the worst footing to start on, and that ended in. That was part of the reason this tragedy, this Greek epic tragedy happened.
Well, that's why
this Wonder Woman Greek tragedy happened.
They've been playing catch up, or at least been trying to for a while now, and once they realized that. You think they realized when there was a second Avengers movie coming out, they're like, well, fuck, we
are behind.
Yeah, we are very behind, and I'm speechless.
I know. I love
how could it be worse than Man of Steel?
Yeah, it was. That's for sure. I love these characters. I love comics, and so I would love to keep seeing comic book material. I think I know that we might get a hiatus from Superman because of this movie.
Yeah.
We might get a bit of time where we don't see him. Mm-hmm. And so I would appreciate, I don't know how many DC fans would, but I would appreciate if in The Flash, because they're constantly transversing universes and constantly peeking into different storylines, he's just on the Supergirl recently.
Yeah.
I'd appreciate, a time jump or a mix-up where he ends up in the Smallville universe. You don't have to say it's the same universe, and we can check in on that character. I'd love to see Tom Welling in the suit for once. That wasn't 2 seconds. And Tom Welling is only 37, I think, or 35, rather. And Henry Cavill is 33. So there's not a big difference there. I don't think Tom Welling should be Superman in the movies. I'm not saying that. Right. But it would be nice to say those 10 years that you lived and breathed with those characters, it wasn't for nothing.
Right.
There and seeing Erica Durance as Lois Lane again, I think it'd be worthwhile. We don't have to see the whole cast of characters. It would be interesting to see, because the Smallville universe had Bart Allen. Yeah. Instead of Barry Allen, so it'd be interesting to see how you'd compare those. I do, as the audience may know, I do a lot of visual effects, so it'd be interesting to see them put the Flash effects from Smallville next to the Flash effects from the Flash, and I don't know, even maybe bring along Green Arrow. Have Green Arrow see Green Arrow. There's interesting stuff to be had there, And, like, because the TV gets 23 episodes per season...
Yeah, they can build up to certain things.
You can build it up, yeah.
Just make sure you hire actors and not models.
Yeah, more actors, less models.
And not just because, you know, they're villains. You know, I mean, obviously you've watched through more of the CW stuff than I have, but you know, the CW stuff they're the new cartoons.
Yeah.
They're the new cartoons, and I kind of am a little disappointed by that, to be honest, because I think, just in general, I think DC stuff, you know, if we're comparing Marvel and DC material, I feel like DC works better in an animated format. So, I would much rather have cheesy voice acting to make fun of than
cheesy acting.
Than cheesy real acting, and then, you know...
Because I do have my problems with Mark Hamill as the trickster. Like, I thought that, you know, I love Mark
his
Hamill.
acting was not that great.
Yeah, it was really weird. I think if DC...
They're making The Killing Joke. They're making it into an animated format.
Yeah, if DC ballsed up to give the CW as much money as Daredevil gets, and as much time as Daredevil gets... Fuck, those shows would be good.
Yeah.
You know, like, those shows would be amazing. They get about, like, half the amount of money that Daredevil gets, and, like, a third of the time.
Right.
So, like, those shows are, you know, really at a disadvantage.
Right.
And I'd love to see them flourish more. Like, I do love what they're doing now. I you know, while I kind of treat them like my soaps.
Oh boy, my soap. All my biceps.
You know, it is... There's still amazing moments, like the end of the first season of Flash, or you know...
Yeah, I like the end of the first season of Flash.
Where you get to see comic book moments come to life. And I don't know. It's just... It's... I do feel like there is this disrespect for comic book fans in the DC movies that just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, what bothers... Unfortunately, a lot of, you know, actual comic book fans... At least mainstream comic book fans, as they say, they'll, you know...
Enjoyed this movie?
Surprisingly? Well, I was going to say not only that, or, you know, the only information they have on these characters are the movies. And I remember somebody told me that, you know, I don't like DC stuff because, quote-unquote, they don't have any interesting stories. And I was like, fuck you.
Yeah,
There's
that's...
Killing Joke.
It's the complete opposite.
Yeah.
The comics, I'm sorry, Marvel. Like, I some of your characters really... send me for trips, and I like him, but DC has the better stories. Like, if you're a really big reader, or you're really big into concepts, and you really like, you know, interesting dialogue, I would say DC has better writers. That's just how I feel about it, but people who don't read the comics don't get that.
Yeah,
and it's sad.
I always say this: Marvel knows how to do, as of right now, like, it knows how to do movies and TV. DC knows how to do animated stuff really well, and comic books. Unfortunately, you know, I wanted to, you know, after the Winter Soldier, because I really liked it, I wanted to get a Captain America comic, and, you know, I asked you, like, what should I go for, and you're like, I don't know, man, not a lot of them are that good. And I was like, oh, what are you talking about? Like, I'm trying to be optimistic. So I go to one of the stores, I buy, like, the all-new Captain America, and it's basically just a ripoff of a Batman story. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Yeah. Like, who's writing this? Yeah. And I wish people would... I hate when people are like, oh my god, like, I'm just a Marvel fan. DC, or, like, they don't even know what the hell a DC is. Like, I've talked to people who are
You mean, like, the shoe company?
or they're like, oh, DC, that's, you know, or Batman's Marvel, right? Or The Flash is Marvel, and I have to keep reminding people,
Did I ever tell you that?
No.
Oh, God. I don't know what you call it. I was interested in this girl, and she was interested in me. And,
we're getting into some deep gossipy stuff.
And I'm blushing. She it was like we were talking about comics or whatever, and like we not to get graphic, but we kissed or whatever, and then like afterwards we were talking, like I had said something about DC, and she literally said
like the shoe company,
question mark, genuinely, like it wasn't like she was like being sarcastic and being an asshole. I think I died inside. I think I died inside.
So you immediately regretted it afterwards.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
No,
I didn't, like, it wasn't like an immediately, like, okay, this is the selling
point.
It's like,
yeah, we're done.
But, like, I really did, like, I was like, okay, I'm gonna slowly back away. Like, This might be a problem.
No, I've had, I've been in situations with girls that I was into, or with other, just, in any other situation where I'm talking about comics and they just don't know what they're talking about. Or, again, there's one person I had to keep reminding that Flash was DC and not Marvel, and they just didn't know. Yeah. And, it really just depends on their outlook, because I can at least admire people who, want to get into it.
Yeah.
And they're sorry, I, fucked that up. But, people are just I'm a huge fan. I only, like these kind of things. Oh, wait, Batman's Marvel, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
yeah,
you're
and it's really,
idiot.
you can't claim, okay. I think comic books are something that you can always get into. There's the great Stan Lee quote that every comic book can be somebody's first. And so that's why you have to have all this expository information. But, it's kind of that poser syndrome where I don't like when somebody claims to know a lot of stuff or claims to be an expert on something, and then they get the company wrong, which is so simple, and so that's what it feels like at Warner Brothers Studios right now. It feels like they're claiming to be the biggest DC fans, and then they're like, oh, fuck, what do we do? Yeah, just have them snap necks. Whatever. It'll be like a Jason Bourne movie, And it's just like, but that's not what these characters are at their core. Like, what are you doing? So God, I have not watched, I think, a single second of what you're doing. What are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing I'm literally just playing something to fill the screen with
the screen with stuff.
Yeah, I think I've already beaten this already. Oh shit, I'm gonna die. Fuck it. Failure.
That's what fucking Batman v Superman should have done. Just committed suicide.
I don't even think I did this one yet. Here, let me give this a shot. If you would like to try, oh no, that's Jigglypuff.
Oh, Jigglypuffs.
If you
they're
if you would like to try this game,
anamorphic blob.
Yeah. If you would like to try this game, please comment and subscribe and chat at I don't give a fuck /
.com.
Shit, I'm gonna die again, aren't I? Yep.
If you think we're real good at this game, which we are, thank you very much.
Yeah, we rank the number top tier.
We're like the number onesies. Within the onesies.
Within the onesies.
Yes, number onesies. We have onesies that say number 1 on them, with just a big fuck you on the ass cheeks.
That's what we'll give our little kids too. Yes. Because we'll be good parents.
Yes.
Oh god. All right, I'm gonna be totally honest here. I've been holding in a fart for a very long time. And I'm trying to be a good...
You're pent up?
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
That I've been holding in because I just feel like it's the right thing to do.
Inappropriate for a podcast or video game or let's play or whatever it is. All right. Well, we'll sign off. That's enough about... I think that's 2-3 hours of just pure content that I'll probably cut up into pieces.
Yeah.
But thank you for watching. If you watched the whole thing, I apologize. If you liked the movie, I apologize. You're more than welcome to your opinion.
You know what? If you give this movie money, then whatever. Maybe Warner Brothers will actually want to make more superhero movies. I don't know.
Yeah, and fuck, if you like a bad movie, it's not my fault. It's not your fault. Yeah. I like Shark Night 3D because I had a good experience with it. # one of the worst movies ever.
I really don't think Zack Snyder. I don't think that he should have an involvement in Justice League.
He shouldn't be a director. He shouldn't be a producer. He should be a director of photography or a camera operator.
Because
they shouldn't give him more responsibility.
Okay, I know you hate the movie, as we've established in the past 3 hours, but you gotta admit that some of the art direction is actually kind of
It's very pretty.
Yeah.
It is. It is very pretty. I don't say pretty to be condescending. I don't have a better word. There are beautiful imagery and stuff like that. There is compelling shots, and I like the focus work, the framing work, all that stuff. But it's 3 hours of beautiful shots of just a massive pile of feces. Anyway, we will sign off to let you release your methane.
I'm glad that's the reason why we stopped talking.
That should be our sign off. All right, everybody. Release that methane.
Oh, exactly.
Yes.
Oh God.